Identify the domain and range. Question number 1. When you're asked to find the domain and range, you simply have to look at the x and y values and make a list. So for the first, if I want to find the domain, I'm going to look at the x values. Make sure you answer the question that's asked. We can give this in list form, and traditionally we write it from least to greatest. So we would say -2, 4, 8, and 10. Domain is associated with x. The second is going to be the range. 1, 2, 3, 4. Please remember we don't repeat values. We write them from least to greatest. So again, -2, 1, 7, and 8. Remember, when we say repeating values, I can have a domain of 8 and a range of 8. I don't want to have two 8s written next door to each other within the range. For the next problem, we are asked to find the domain and range given a set of ordered pairs, graphed in the coordinate plane. So if I notice here is my origin, this is the center of my graph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make a list of 5 ordered pairs, which then I will count to find. Ordered pairs are always in the order of x, y. So I'll start here. Notice I went to -4, -2. This one I went over 1, 2, 3, up 5. 1, 2, -2, up 4. At this point is 0 in the x direction, up 6. And lastly, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. Now what I have listed looks very similar to what I had in the previous problem, and I just need to rewrite using domain and range. So my domain is going to be my x values. So when I look at my x values, I've got -2, correction, -4, -2, 0, and 3. For my range, which are my y values, I again have -2, 4, 5, and 6. The next section asks me to make a mapping diagram. A mapping diagram, an example, would look like this, where I have x listed first, y listed second. So following suit up here, I'm going to make a list of x and a list of y. 0, -4, -3, 4, and 8. My y's are going to include 5, 3, 0, and 2. I then draw arrows, so 0 goes to 5, -4 to 3, -3 to 0, 4 to 2, 8 to 2. If you want, you can put these in circles or boxes. Mapping is indicated matches through arrows, drawn from x to y. Alright, so in the next section we've got to determine. So we're not answering questions about domain and range. We're going to determine if what we're given is an example of a function. Okay? Functions are evaluated a couple different ways. The first is to ask yourself, do you have any x repeaters? So the fact that I have 2 of these coming off of 0 tells me that I'm repeating x. As soon as I have a repeated x matched to more than one y, it's automatically considered a quote-unquote cheater and is not a function. So the answer to the first is no, based on 0. We could have also ruled it out because coming from 1 up to -2 is a single. That didn't bother us, or the 3. But also notice 0 has a third pair all the way down here. In the next example, I'm going to look just at the x's, -1, 0, 3, 2, and 4. None of those are repeated x values, so yes, this is an example of a function. Again, we're looking at x's. the last two problems, we're going to use the vertical line test. If I draw in a vertical line, does it touch the graph at two places? If the answer is yes, then I do not have a function. This failed the vertical line test. Over here, if I draw in a vertical line, it touches at two places. This fails the vertical line test again and is not a function. Identifying domain and range. I want to zoom in for this one. When we talk about domain, we want to say how far left and right that the graph is graphed. You note this on the x-axis. So when I write my answer, x, we're going to fill in these boxes for my domain. How far left, how far right. So from -1 to 1 is my domain. My range is how far north and south and everything in between. So here, my range is now going to be the y values and run from -3 to 3. -3 to 3. Lastly, in number 9, same concept. How far left, how far right. Notice I have no arrowheads for infinities. So down on my axis, between here and here, is my domain. So my domain is going to run here, which would be from -2 all the way over to 3. My range, however, is only going to run between these 2 points, the southernmost and northernmost. So my range is going to run from 4 to 6. The biggest number goes to the right always. On the next page, evaluate the function given the value of x. This is what's going in for x. So f of -3 is equal to 3, -3 minus 17. Notice how when I took the x out, I replaced it with parentheses. I'm going to put this in the calculator exactly as you see it. When I do that, I'm going to get out -26. Now I know when we get to number 11, a lot of you panic. Follow the models we've done in class. If you order DVDs, it's $12 each plus $3 for shipping. The flat fee is $3. What changes is $12 every time we buy more and more DVDs. Write a function rule to model this. So let's use D for DVD and C for cost. $3 shipping is the automatic price, plus $12 times the number of DVDs is going to tell me my total cost. How much will it cost to buy 5 DVDs? So the number of DVDs is 5. I put this into my calculator, and I get $63 out as my final answer. If x and y vary directly. This section of the notes was very clear on the steps needed to solve a problem like this. It's not a word problem. It's a proportion problem. Remember k is equal to y over x? We also said that y over x is equal to y over x. That was our proportion. We're going to take these and plug them into the proportion. So 20 over 5 is equal to, notice I was given y, and we're going to call this x. We then cross multiply. 20 times x is 20x. 5 times 20 is 60. Solve. And we find our answer to be 3. In the next section, the big mistake that you need to watch out for, there's actually 2. One is signs, and the second is putting it in your calculator correctly. So for all of these problems, they're going to involve what I call superfraction. Set them up that way. Ready to go. Now, I'm going to always start with my y value because notice it's y minus y, and plug in 3. This is in -8. Fill the spot in the bottom. Then I go back to x's and numbers. When I grab my calculator, and plug it in, I end up getting -11 coming out of the calculator. However, please keep in mind slope is a fraction, so -11 over 1 should be what I'm thinking about when I write my answer. I will accept this, but keep this other fraction in mind. When I move here, I'm going to take the first number, -4, y value, first y, minus -5, over -2, and fill in the 8. When I put this in the calculator, I'm going to get 1, -1/10. Now, the next problem, I'm going to switch colors on purpose. If I start with the 7 and put in the 7, and 5 minus 3, when I put it in the calculator, I'm going to get 0 out. Now that we've covered graphing slope, we know that this would be a constant slope, so the answer can be 0. However, in the next problem, 6 minus 20 over -14 minus 14, it's going to tell you in the calculator you can't divide by 0. Which means my solution is undefined. We'll explore later the fact that undefined means that it is a vertical line. For the next section of finding x-intercepts and y-intercepts, we're going to go back through and do all the algebra. For the purpose of this video, I'll be doing number 17 and 23. The rest of the answers will be posted in the final answer key. When you are asked to find the x-intercept, we know that y is equal to 0. So I take that and I actually plug it in here. And I have 6x minus 4 times 0 is equal to 24. I cancel that because it equals 0. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. X equals 4. To find the y-intercept, we know that x equals 0. Same problem. Divide both sides by -4. Y equals -6. Again, I'll post the rest of the answers for the key. The last problem is another word problem. Sue is starting a savings account. After 2 weeks, she has $200. When we set up our ordered pairs, keep in mind this x variable should always be time. And then, of course, y in this case is going to be money. After 5 weeks, she has $350. What is her rate of change? Rate of change is another way of asking for slope. So I'm going to set up superfraction, and I'm going to put in my y value first, 200 minus 350 over 2 minus 5. And when I do that, I get 50 over 1. Whenever we ask you for rate of change, we need units. So 50 is going to be dollars per week. That is the answer that we are looking for.